Good afternoon and welcome to your 4 to 5. I'm Taheshah with Maddie Gardner and Eric Chilton.
Yes, this is an interactive newscast where we chat with you in real time on our Facebook live stream and our YouTube page. Join our conversation. Use our hashtag 4 to 5 to stay connected.
Dr. Uhl with Wake Forest Baptist Health says he believes students can return to school in the fall. Uhl said schools can reopen safely, but classroom settings would look different. He warned that schools would more than likely see coronavirus cases if they reopen, but adds there's no need to shut down school buildings. Dr. Uhl said the best way to handle any cases would be the same way school districts deal with whooping cough or chickenpox. Isolate the cases and keep them away from healthy children. Governor Cooper announced Wednesday the state is still working on a plan to reopen safely. School districts are creating individual plans to reopen based on 3 options laid out by state leaders. The state also distributed personal protective equipment to schools to use for the upcoming year.
President Donald Trump now says he thinks wearing masks in public is useful in slowing the spread of coronavirus. The president says if he were in a close space near other people, he'd wear his mask. In an interview, he commented he feels a federal mandate to require masks in public is a step too far. He said wearing a mask should be a personal choice. According to White House senior advisor Kellyanne Conway, the president and other White House visitors and aides are regularly tested for coronavirus. Well, a team of economists add that masks can help the U.S. economy. Goldman Sachs found areas without a face covering rule had more coronavirus cases and deaths. Now, we've seen states reverse reopening phases as cases there increase. The investment bank estimates lockdowns would cost 5% of the nation's gross domestic product. According to Forbes, that 5% equals $1 trillion. They say wearing masks will help slow the spread of the virus, which will help lower the number of cases and let economies reopen.
Elon University, a poll there finds that most North Carolinians support the statewide mask mandate. 74% support Governor Roy Cooper's order to wear masks in public. 46% of people say they always wear a mask in public spaces. 19% say they wear masks for the most part. All right, let's take a look at your 4 to 5 roundup right now. British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested by federal authorities in New Hampshire today. She's accused by many women of helping find underage partners for Jeffrey Epstein. The two lived together for years. Epstein killed himself in a federal detention center in New York last summer while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. Maxwell has repeatedly denied wrongdoing and called some of the claims against her absolute rubbish. The High Point Furniture Market is getting help from the state to help the fall market become safer. The market authority says the General Assembly will give them more than $700,000 to pay for extra measures aimed at minimizing exposure to COVID-19. The money will come from the CARES Act. The market will be in High Point for 9 days in October. They say the extra days will allow them to limit the number of people there at the same time. There will also be extra cleaning, social distancing, and enhanced medical services. And a big happy birthday to the King, Richard Petty. Today, the NASCAR legend turns 83. His winning racing career left him with 7 NASCAR titles, 200 career wins, 7 wins at Daytona, and the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1992. Petty is certainly still in the fast lane. In 2004, he started Victory Junction Camp for critically ill kids, and he's a part of the Petty Family Foundation and Petty Motorsports. Downtown Greensboro Incorporated wants you to stamp your passport this summer. Your downtown Greensboro passport, that is. In an effort to draw more people to downtown, they've created a point system for you to earn prizes. You can explore in person or online, and using their app, you'll complete different tasks like taking a photo at a certain business or a photo of your takeout food. If you visit 3 businesses, you'll be entered to win a basket full of prizes.
Well, an interesting story here out of Maine where an Uber driver claims he was fired for refusing to pick up riders who weren't wearing masks. Danny Darling says he started canceling rides when riders approached his car without a mask on. Now, Uber drivers do have the ability to cancel rides if a rider is not wearing a mask. That new feature started on June 1st. Other new Uber safety features include a rider's agreement to wear a mask when getting into an Uber. Still, Darling says he was fired after riders started filing complaints. Uber says the company released Darling for, quote, unsafe practices and problematic behavior. Interesting story here. We don't know all of the facts. It seems more of a he said, they said situation, but I don't blame him for canceling a ride if he has that ability.
Right. I mean, this is a matter of safety, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think at this point, that's his decision. I really don't think he should have been fired, but that's my personal opinion. Again, Maddie, you're right. We don't know all the details. On the surface, I would say that he's got a case to keep his job if he wanted to, and maybe even put a sign on the car that says, no mask, no ride, or something, just to let people know.
That's a good idea. That way they know when they're walking up to the car that they need to put a mask on, rather than getting inside and then him having to say, hey, you got to get out because you're not wearing a mask. That might lead to less complaints there.
It's my understanding, though, that Uber introduced a feature.
Might answer the question.
It was my understanding that Uber introduced a feature that would have a verification method there, that you would have to take a picture of yourself and the driver would as well. So I'm curious to know exactly some of the minute details that we aren't getting in this story, because on face value, as you guys said, it doesn't seem quite right.
Right, especially with Uber saying he was let go because of problematic behavior. I'd like to see why they are saying that and if there were other things, not just the mask wearing, that led up to this.
It almost seems like a glitch in the system. All right, let's talk about a forecast. And boy, we're just continued hot and hazy and humid for a while. In fact, we don't change very much from high temperatures, but from upper 80s to low 90s for the next 7 days. So get used to this, although rain chances change a little bit. Let's start out with temperatures: 88 in Greensboro, 89 in Burlington. High Point, you have 88 degrees. Winston-Salem, 86. Mount Airy, same reading, drops to 80 around Galax. Tonight, we'll see that overnight low around 69. We think we have mostly clear skies heading into the evening. You've got 69 degrees, but it will be muggy. And then tomorrow, 91, sunny, hot, and humid. Again, you can see there is not much of anything on the satellite radar over the Carolinas, or over North Carolina, I should say. South Carolina has a little bit of activity east of Columbia to the coastal sections. A quick look at our long-range forecast shows low 90s for Friday, Saturday. The difference, a very slight chance of a shower Saturday. I don't think if 4th of July plans, if you're doing anything, will have any problems at all. And then Sunday, 40% chance of late-day thunderstorms. We're in the upper 80s. We stay around 87 to 88 most of next week, with that typical 30% chance of a late-day shower or storm.
Well, cooling off at Triad pools, like most things these days, will look a little bit different this summer. Some are closed altogether, others are open with some new guidelines. WFMY News 2's Grace Holland took a closer look at where you can dive in.
Pools like this one in Greensboro and Guilford County parks are closed, but in High Point, Washington Terrace Pool is open for swimming. And in Winston-Salem, 4 city pools are open, but keeping swimmers safe means changing the hours and more frequent cleanings. Some summer traditions never change, but coronavirus means making changes at Triad pools.
Some of it's going to look very similar to a lot of other places you go, though. People are going to be masked, face coverings. We have a temperature check station that's required.
The capacities at our pools are significantly lower than they have been in the past.
City pools in Winston-Salem and High Point are also closing for more frequent cleanings during the day, which means those pools have had to hire more staff members.
With the staff that we had, we could only open 4 pools. And we also had to look at which pools had the biggest area so that we could offer proper social distancing.
Some of those considerations could be why some pools are choosing to stay closed. The Guilford County Health Department says about 15% of privately owned public pools have not opened this season.
And if you have a local organization to where they would have to rely on volunteers or something like that, that may not be realistic.
The pools that are open hope to offer families a place to relax that can be hard to find these days.
It's enjoyment, quality of life, and that's why we do it. And we found that we could do it in a safe way.
Grace Holland, WFMY News 2.
Grace, thank you. Well, continue chatting with us right now on our Facebook live stream and our YouTube page. Do you feel safe going to the pool this summer? Let us know. Use that hashtag 4 to 5. We'll be right back.
Thousands of women die every year giving birth, but in North Carolina, Black mothers are almost 3 times more at risk. Adding coronavirus, which is having a bigger impact in communities of color, and the crisis begins to look worse. A group of health experts are trying to tackle that problem by creating a task force with some recommendations they feel can make a big impact.
Lots of fear, lots of concerns, lots of misinformation.
Giving birth can be scary, but even more so in the middle of a pandemic.
Our world has really shifted, and what many people thought when they were approaching starting a family or expanding their family looks really different right now.
Those in the maternity health world say soon-to-be parents are having trouble navigating the space, while healthcare providers face troubles of their own.
The information is constantly changing and constantly updating.
To help mothers across the state have the best chance for a healthy pregnancy during the pandemic, a new task force was formed.
We're obstetricians, nurse midwives, lactation consultants, childbirth educators, spanning the state.
The North Carolina Pregnancy and Continuity of Care during COVID-19 task force members span the healthcare sector and includes people who advocate for families.
We needed to have, all of the folks sort of who are both providing health care to families and also from the family perspective, what it looks like to be receiving that health care.
The task force recommendations address 6 key issues ranging from health disparity to safe birthing options to the importance of support both before, during, and after birth. Tina Sherman says it's all about addressing someone as a whole person.
When we talk about how are we providing care, we need to take into consideration where someone is coming from, their background, both their race, both if they're coming from a rural community, if they're Native American.
The goal is to get these recommendations into the hands of as many people in the maternal health sector as soon as possible to hopefully make lasting change. Now, if you'd like to have a closer look at those recommendations, I will include their handout in this story on our website. But Maddie, the big thing that stood out to me was just support for soon-to-be mothers and fathers, both before, during, and after pregnancy, because you don't need the help doesn't need to stop after you give birth. Many questions.
Absolutely. In fact, a whole new set of obstacles comes up. Postpartum care is very important, and I think a lot of times it's overlooked because people, especially people who haven't been mothers before, don't understand that so much has to happen afterward, and you're overwhelmed and you're tired, and giving birth is such an event, whether it's naturally or C-section. So I'm glad to see that people are now reaching out to new mothers before and after to really help them with that.
And there's a lot that just isn't talked about in normal everyday life. So part of the process has to be normalizing, talking about the struggles so that when it does happen to you, you're not caught off guard.
Right. A big mad props to all the mothers out there. My sister gave birth to twins at the start of June, and watching her go through this journey, she's killing it. She's so strong. All moms everywhere deserve a big hug and probably about $200,000 a day. We'll be back.
Well, I, for one, absolutely love a good ghost story. You've probably seen some of those stories I've done over the years, and you combine that with the charm of the real Mayberry in Mount Airy, and you've got something there. I spoke with my good friend Mark Brown of Mayberry Ghost Tours about their unique haunted strolls. Take a look.
Mark, I love ghost tours, and I love that you guys are doing this. Tell me a little bit about how it all got started, and then I have to hear one of the ghost stories.
I based it on absolutely no other ghost tours because at the time I had never been on a ghost tour. And they said, "Can you write one of these?" And I said, "Sure, I can." But once you start doing the research, it just happens. You start thinking, okay, this is where that ghost came from. And okay, this is where that old story came from. And this must be the ghost that's related to it.
You sent me a picture that I want to show now, but can you tell a little bit about that particular ghost story? Because that was interesting.
There have been stories of people hearing late at night in the building that the Mount Airy Chamber of Commerce is in, someone counting money. It sounds like someone counting dollar bills. And people have seeing an older gray-haired gentleman. Oh my gosh, they're everywhere. Did you hear that? People have seen, I can't get away from them. People have seen an older gray-haired gentleman with longer gray hair and a high starched white collar. And we found that picture of Mr. Facette, who used to work in that bank. It was his bank back when it opened. And that's the same picture. They've actually identified this as, yes, this is the man that I've seen.
What's the most requested or the most asked question when you're in these groups?
Wow. Have you seen anything? And most of our guides have seen something at some point or another. You do ghost tours for long enough, you're going to see several things that you can't explain. Some of my stories are on the tour. We've had people take pictures while we were doing the tours, and people will take pictures and go, look what I just got. I got a floating orb right here. We see those a lot. But sometimes people will show you stuff that there is no explanation for. I think you may have one of those that I sent you. There's a face in a window. It's a brick window. Somebody got that on the tour one night.
Mark, thanks for being with us today. Best of luck up there, man. That's great stuff.
Oh, thank you, Eric. And of course, come be with us, as we say.
All right, so we've given you information. We've linked you to their website. It's on this story, which will be on WFNYnews2.com shortly after the show. I know Maddie. I know you know Mark. I know Mark because we're both from Mount Airy, but that guy has a personality bigger than the TV screen.
That's right. So I graduated with his daughter, Kate, from Mount Airy High School. And yes, that whole family, great people and great personality. So I can imagine doing a ghost tour with him would be very entertaining.
How do you guys feel about the supernatural? Do you believe in ghosts? Are you weirded out? For me, the music enough weirded me out.
So, well, that's true. For me, it's more of, I like to believe it, even though I don't think I really do, but I like to because it's fun. So I love the whole ghost story thing.
I like the history of it all, even if I don't believe in that necessarily. All right, let us know. It's a good conversation to have. We'll see you on our live stream on Facebook.
All right, from ghosts to UFOs, I'm covering all the weird stuff today, aren't I? It is World UFO Day today, in case you didn't know. In fact, I read today, you may remember recently the Navy released some pilot video from airplanes where they couldn't identify these flying objects out there. Congress is actually requesting information from the Pentagon about this, but they say they want to see if it's a threat from another country that might have ill will toward the United States. Anyway, I asked you if you believed in UFOs and intelligent life out there in the universe. Here's what you had to say. Some pretty crazy comments today. It was fun. Candace Lee Phillips, who comments occasionally on our thread here, she said, I surely hope so, because the intelligent beings here on Earth are diminishing at an alarming rate, and they show it on the news every day. Joe Tanner says, yes, growing up in the Midwest, they are spotted all the time. I've seen them on several occasions, also alongside of crowds of people who saw them at the same time. We are not the only species in the universe. Stephanie Rohn says, if there's not, that's a lot of empty space out there. I kind of agree with you there. Indy Moore says, in this infinite universe, why would we be the only intelligent life on our little speck spinning in our little galaxy among the billions of galaxies out there? Nancy Wilkie put it simply, nope, don't believe in that stuff. So that's up to everybody individually. But it is, in my opinion, hard to believe, as vast as the universe is, that we're the only intelligent life form. But we'll see.
Children's trying to give me nightmares tonight. I'm not going to be able to sleep after ghost stories and aliens.
Well, listen to this, because there is actually a network of UFO trackers here in North Carolina. It's called MUFON. It's the Mutual UFO Network. You can go onto their website and type in the state, the city, all over the country, and see different UFO sightings across the country.
I've actually done a story before with people who say that they've met aliens and been abducted by them in some cases. They had a convention a couple years ago right here in Greensboro, and they let me go cover that story. So interesting. I mean, people definitely believe in this, and they definitely have stories that they say back up those beliefs. For me, I'm still skeptic.
I like to listen to the stories, though.
Yeah.
I'm on that website right now, Taheshah.
MUFON.com.
We'll be right back.
All right, let's talk about a forecast first. Yes, I will turn my attention to where it should be right now. 88 degrees in the Triad. I want you to look south to see how hot it is. 93 degrees in Columbia, South Carolina. 95 in Augusta. Yeah, it could be worse. That's what we need to keep telling ourselves. Although it's pretty hot here. Fairly clear out there. We might see a little sprinkle here or there, just a very light if you see anything at all. Most of the activity is in South Carolina, east of Columbia to the coast. That's where we're seeing that. And we're kind of stuck in this hot, hazy, dry condition there as we head into the evening. Now, it might be a little bit muggy as we head into the overnight period, but that's kind of normal for this time of the year. You see that stationary front remaining to the south of us, and we just sit here and kind of cook under that high pressure ridge for a while. Rain chances slip back in by Sunday evening as a 40%, but low 90s Friday, Saturday, mostly sunny, fairly dry. The afternoon, typical summertime rain chances with highs in the upper 80s for most of next week.
Hi, ice cold milk and an Oreo cookie, they forever go together.
Good Thursday afternoon. Welcome to your 4 to 5. I'm Maddie Gardner here with Taheshah Moyes and Eric Chilton this afternoon.
This is an interactive newscast where we like to chat with you in real time on our Facebook live stream and on YouTube. We do that during our commercial breaks. You can join the conversation using the hashtag 4 to 5.
Well, we have two quick stories for you in our 4 to 5 roundup this half hour. The U.S. economy gained nearly 5 million jobs in June. That brings the unemployment rate to about 11% and far exceeds economists' expectation. The data released today reflects a market that is starting to heal from the effects of the pandemic. Economists expected an increase of 3 million jobs and a rate of more than 12% for unemployment. May, of course, also had a surprise gain of more than 2.5 million jobs when economists expected a loss of 8 million. And a 9-year-old girl who witnessed George Floyd's death is now writing a book about her experience. Judea Reynolds and her older cousin were walking to the store to get some snacks when they saw Floyd's interaction with police. They stopped to record a video. The book is titled My Walk to the Store. Now, a social advocate who has been working with Reynolds says she's reading books to help her cope with what she's been through. And writing this book is another step in her healing process. Her mother says she's been praying about it and working through her trauma.
Deputies in West Hollywood are now fining anyone not wearing a face covering in public. The first-time offense is $300, and those citations are effective immediately. Now, it's only an administrative citation, so offenders will not get a criminal record. Local authorities have been given the authority to enforce California's statewide mask order. So I wanted to get your thoughts on this recent development. Here's what you had to say on my Facebook page today. Greg Adams says wearing a mask is cheaper and the only way we get our lives back. Catherine Chavez says, girl, do you know what I can do with $300? Not pay a fine for not wearing a mask. I will definitely be wearing a mask in North Carolina. And Wanda writes, will be hard to do unless they carry around some kind of official paper that would say why they can't. Then it will be hard to make sure it was a real paper and not a fake or something like that. Wanda brings up a good point there. Rosemary says, given that you could literally kill someone by refusing to wear one seems reasonable. And Barry says, we need that here. Some of these people here in Greensboro think they are invincible. I know 3 people personally that almost left this earth because of coronavirus. I want to go back to what Wanda said, because I guess in theory this could be a good thing, but then you have people that are saying, I have a medical condition, I cannot wear a mask, and it's like, how do you prove that? The authorities just have to take your word for it? Are people gonna mess with the system that way?
Like a doctor's note of
Right.
sorts would be necessary. I definitely think it would encourage more people to wear a mask if we had a fine associated with this or some kind of citation. I know we've reached out to several local police departments and sheriff's offices that say they're not as interested in citing people as they are just educating them on why this is important.
Yeah, I think it just gets to the point where, and Taheshah's right, like you can't really enforce that as much as you'd want to. They may say that as a way to get people to do it more, but that'd be really tough to enforce. And as Maddie mentioned, some of the departments, some of the sheriffs all across the country, some of them are like, we're not enforcing that. So we'll see how it goes. But I do think, if nothing else, the talk encourages people to educate themselves and do the right thing.
It's interesting because here lately masks have been compared to seatbelts and how wearing a seatbelt was not enforced or there was no law associated with it or fine, and now we know that you can get a ticket and be cited for not wearing a seatbelt. So it is interesting to think about a few years down the road. Hopefully we're not dealing with this anymore, but if we are, will something like this play into that? Well, we'll continue here with coronavirus stories. 2 Gold's Gym locations open today in Greensboro. 6 locations total open in the state, but 3 of those are here in the Triad. Now, Governor Roy Cooper's safer at home order keeps gyms and fitness centers closed unless a workout is prescribed by a doctor. And gyms, they're not going to ask for proof of that. Gold's Gym is only open for part of the day and will only allow a certain number of people inside. So do you think gyms should be open, and would you go if they all reopened? Caroline Siner said, I just left the gym, so you've got my vote. Stacey Pennington said they should reopen, and yes, I would totally go. I was going twice a day. It's essential for the body and the mind. Amanda Petruzzi said big box gyms should stay closed. Smaller boutique gyms, they're a different story. Eric Ayers finally says no, the infection rate is spreading too quickly at this time. Personally, I would feel a bit uncomfortable going to a big box gym like that at this time, but people seem to be having the choice at this point since they found that workaround to open.
I think for me, it is. I'm with you, Maddie. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that now. I also feel for the people that own the gyms because I know they want to make their money. My philosophy is, if you let them open, that's fine, but I won't be going for a while.
I would definitely go if they were open in the state. At one point, North Carolina was one of 5 states that didn't have gyms open across the country. I am a little weary, though, of the big box gyms because you can't quite control who's using what equipment or making sure, I guess, that it's being wiped down. In my opinion, you know, before all this pandemic started, you would go to some gyms and someone would sweat on equipment and just walk away. So I would always be the person wipe it down before, even if I saw the person wipe it down before me.
Yeah, you got to be safe in a gym when there's not a pandemic because germs can spread easily. But during this, you just want to take that extra precaution and make sure things are actually clean and people are actually keeping their distance.
A new study suggests state leaders closing bars down to slow the spread of coronavirus are making the right choice. The study says the danger in spreading the virus comes down to heavy breathing in close spaces. Doctors with Boston University School of Medicine say bars go against any social distancing guidelines. They suggest there are 2 dangers in going to a bar. People drinking can forget safety precautions and anyone could be asymptomatic for the virus. In Michigan, an outbreak was connected to a brew pub near Michigan State University. 140 people in 12 counties tested positive for the virus.
All right, you're going to want to hear this story. Residents in Mobile, Alabama are now under a mandatory face mask rule after the city council there learned students in Tuscaloosa were holding coronavirus parties. Council members say students are holding those parties to try to get sick on purpose. They're actually putting money into a pot, and whoever gets sick first gets the money. The city council ordered people to wear face masks after word spread that students who knew they were positive for COVID were going to these parties. Governor Kay Ivey says a statewide mask rule would be too difficult to enforce. All right, here's my issue with this. So first, we don't know if you can get the coronavirus again after you've gotten it one time. We don't know how the immunity works. We also don't know the long-term effects of this. So getting it on purpose just seems like maybe not a good idea to me, because what if later down the road you still have some respiratory issues because you were infected?
Ugh, the youth. That's all I have to say. The youth. Not a good idea.
It is the idea. It is the idea that somebody came up with that and said, let's see who gets this first. They have no idea how it's going to affect them. Everybody's body chemistry, it seems like to me, reacts differently. One person, it could be fatal. The next person could be older and still make it. That is the most ridiculous idea I've ever heard of. Plus, they're taking that home to their parents and their grandparents and all of that.
You bring up 2 good points, Eric. We've heard stories of 20-somethings, 30-somethings who are dying from getting this virus, who are having serious complications, and then you interact with someone's 85-year-old grandmother and she gets sick and she has serious complications. Way too risky for me. We gotta use our heads right now.
Yeah. I agree. All right, let's use our heads and come up with a forecast. We have looked and we are all clear for tonight. Now, it may be a little bit muggy at times, but we expect that, right? It's July, for goodness sake. So we'll see that kind of a hot, muggy condition in the overnight tonight. Most of the rain is to the south of our state, actually. It's down toward Columbia and east all the way to the coast. We're kind of stuck in this dry slot. Now, we don't mean it's going to be dry and not humid. It still will be humid. But as far as rain goes, the chances are pretty slim, less than 20% for our Friday, about a 20% chance for your Saturday. Now, Sunday, things will change a little bit as some of the systems shift and it brings in a little more moisture and a chance of just that typical late day pop-up shower or storm. And boy, are we locked into that forecast for a while. You notice that low tonight, 69 degrees. Winds will be fairly light out of the northeast. Here's your long range outlook with low 90s for Friday and Saturday. Mostly rain-free. Sunday, a 40% chance of a late-day pop-up shower or storm, and 89, and we stay around 87 to 88 with a 30% chance each afternoon and evening for the rest of next week.
I have a nickname for this bad guy right here. Can either of you think of it?
I know it. Do you know it?
Sneaky.
Nope.
Sneaky someone.
What is your best guess?
Scammy Sammy.
Scammy Sammy, that's right. I call him or her Scammy Sammy. It's the character that we use when we talk about scams, and we are all targets. So I wanted each one of you, give me an example of a scam that may have come your way.
Oh, my student loans could be lowered if I just call this number.
Okay.
Or you have won some money, but you got to call us and give us a gift card number, and then you pay for the shipping of the money.
Right. These are very classic scams. One of the most asked questions we get from folks when they're scammed is, how did the scammer know so much information about me? And here's one explanation.
Many of these scammers may also even have personal information about you that they've gotten from, say, a data breach at somewhere like Equifax that they can use to tailor their pitch to you specifically. All of this is designed to try and convince you that the person on the other end of the phone is who they say they are. They have the technology to make your caller ID look like the call is actually coming from your local electricity company, for example. And they have scripts that they use that are very convincing.
All right, the scam that this particular Scammy Sammy is trying to convince you to fall for deals with your power, water, or your gas company. If you pay any kind of bill like that, this is a story that you should not miss coming up at 6 o'clock. All right, here's another thing you shouldn't miss. It's time to get your stimulus and your tax questions answered. You can text your questions to 336-379-5775. Remember, your taxes are due July 15th. And if you're waiting for a stimulus check or debit card, you're not going to want to miss this or the next round of stimulus that's being talked about right now.
No doubt this 4th of July is going to be different. The CDC says it's best if people bring their own food to outdoor cookouts instead of sharing dishes. And 2 Wants to Know's Ben Briscoe found there's another way coronavirus is impacting your 4th food plans.
Before you hit the grill this weekend, you're probably going to get fired up about the price of meat. It's higher than you probably remember. Even shopping at a bargain grocery store for one of the cheapest cuts of beef. In the Triad, chuck pot roast is still $6.47 per pound, up exactly $1 from this time last year, according to the federal government's price history website. And a middle-of-the-road steak at a middle-of-the-road grocery store has an even more dramatic price increase. Sirloin is up to $10.99 a pound from $8.62 last year, an increase of $2.37 per pound. About a month ago, Tyson Foods predicted this would happen.
If our plants need to be slowed down or even idled for the sake of ensuring that the workplace is safe, we're not afraid to do that. We have seen reductions in productivity, primarily on the red meat side of the business.
Meatandpoultry.com says 57 meat packing plants across the country are closed today. And this drop in supply comes as demand is going up.
I expect for that demand to continue. This virus has impacted demand in a big way.
Any way you slice it, experts think we'll be paying more for meat until coronavirus gets sorted out. Ben Briscoe, 2 Wants to Know.
Ben, thank you. Well, speaking of the holiday weekend, several beaches are closing to stop the spread of coronavirus. In Galveston County, Texas, LA, and Orange counties in California, all beaches are closing this weekend. No word on if there will be any closures in North Carolina, but anyone visiting North Myrtle Beach in South Carolina will have to wear a mask in stores and government offices. That rule started today at noon. Myrtle Beach has become somewhat of a hot spot recently for coronavirus.
I have noticed that when you see, I read a lot about the coastal areas because it's near and dear to my heart, but I know that a lot of folks are saying that on the beaches, people are literally trying to social distance. Even with that sea breeze, you think it wouldn't be a problem, but they're still trying to stay apart. And at this point, and you're right, Maddie, we've heard reports about the Grand Strand and Myrtle Beach. You got to be careful when you decide where to go for vacation and how you behave.
And the Surgeon General yesterday came out and said that he recommends everyone to wear a mask at the beach. You know, that's hard to do. It's hot. You'll get weird tan lines. So for me, if I'm going to have to wear a mask at the beach, I'm just not going to go.
Absolutely. It would be very difficult, especially if you bring your kids there, to have them wear a mask too if they're older than that threshold age. So I don't know. I'm probably not going to be visiting the beach for a while. Going to do some staycationing, but if you are, just be safe when you're out there.
Yeah, that's all you can do. Will you go to the beach? Do you have plans to go to the beach? Let us know in the live stream. We'll be right back.
Well, if you're like me, you love those retro nostalgia shops that really take us back in time. I love those places. Well, there's one in Surrey County that really takes the cake. I want you to meet Rosie Boland. She takes us into the world of the store called the Groovy Goose.
Hi, Rosie. Thanks for joining us today. Boy, you guys have such a cool shop. Let's talk a little bit about what you offer, and then I also want to talk about the backstory here. But what do you guys have at the Groovy Goose?
Well, our specialty is vintage that's a little bit more boutique-like. It's really high quality. As a matter of fact, it's so high quality, we were voted best of the state for the past 2 years.
Woohoo! And how did you guys get into this? Were you collectors to start out with, and then you just made it a business, or how does that work?
We were. We really started when eBay first started. So we would buy things. We were always fond of flea markets, and we would buy things and sell on eBay. We started that in, 1997? Something like that. And so we've just built and built until we got to the point that we were in Raleigh and listing on eBay. We were looking for a small town to start our business in. And when we moved here, we had 12 20-foot U-Hauls of inventory to bring over here. And fortunately, we have been embraced by the community, because otherwise I don't know what we would have done with those truckloads.
So do you have one type of item or one thing that you like the most that maybe you collect individually?
Well, it turned out that 90% of what we sell is clothing, which is great, because the clothing that was made before we started shipping things off to China is so beautiful, so well made, and so tailored. So when these young women come in and try on these clothes, they have no idea that they can even look like that. So it's a joyful kind of experience all around.
I love it. That describes your shop, joyful, that's for sure. Thanks, Rosie, for taking time. Good luck up there.
Thank you so much for interviewing us.
And if you want to check out the shop, it's awesome. I've been in there several times. They have great stuff. They're located in downtown Mount Airy, but just a great shop. And what I like is they have some old telephones, which I love. I don't know why. I think that's cool, but they have like from different decades. It's really neat.
Yeah, I've passed it several times right there on Market Street. Never stopped in, Eric, but I think now I'm going to have to the next time I'm in Mount Airy.
I love that she mentioned the quality of clothes, because that's something that I've noticed. My mom still has clothes from the 90s that is still usable and wearable. And sometimes you go to a lot of these fast fashion places and it's like a one-use item.
Right, disposable clothing.
Exactly.
That's what I call it. Not there though, Eric. They have some good finds, huh?
Not there. Great place. You got to check it out, especially if you like old vinyl. You can get some good finds there. All right, let's see what's going on with the forecast. We got to talk about overnight lows going down to, well, close to 70 for tomorrow morning. That's pretty mild. We'll be muggy, although we'll be clear as we head into the night. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, hot and humid again with a high temperature of 91 degrees. And we'll get used to those low 90s for the next 2 days. I think we'll see that. The only difference in tomorrow and the 4th would be maybe a degree. And then Saturday, we do have that 20% chance of a late day shower. Again, you do the math, that means an 80% chance that you won't see any rain on the 4th. Sunday evening might be a different story. We get a little more volatile with a 40% chance of rain and a high of 89. The normal high is 88, and we'll hover within a degree of that from Sunday all the way through Thursday of next week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's a 30% chance of a pop-up late day shower or storm. Still not a great chance. Highs around 87. And when we get to Thursday, we're mainly dry. That rain chance drops to a 20%, and we look for highs around 88.
Coming up on WFMY News 2 at 5, after weeks of monitoring protests, Winston-Salem police say they are going to start arresting protesters. We'll explain why and dig deeper into the impact protests are having on Triad law enforcement policies next on WFMY News 2 at 5.
Mic check, Maddie. Mic check, Maddie. Sorry, that puff of air was me walking through the studio door.
Hey, mic check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Hello, I'm putting my microphone on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1.
Hey, mic check. Let's just pray that the train doesn't go by. Sorry, that was the car. Can you hear me? 1, 2, 3. It's just really loud down here. 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? That car is so loud.
Hey, if you can give me the auxes so that I'll put the number 1 in place.